That's your Gap hoodie, is that right? That's you who you're shooting at?
No.
Alright, now back it up again.
That's one of the men involved in young Dolph's murder, admitting everything on tape. And he's not done talking. He also mentions Yo Gotti's alleged role in the situation, and hints that more names might be on the list. As you can imagine, the streets aren't happy about him talking, and he may have to watch his back for a long time. Let's get into it. The murder that shook Memphis and the beef behind it. The streets of Memphis don't play when it comes to keeping things real. But even in a city that's seen plenty of drama, nothing hit harder than what happened in November 2021. We're talking about the shocking, broad daylight killing of one of the realest to ever come out of the city, young Dolph. This wasn't random. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was the kind of situation that had the entire neighborhood talking, the city mourning, and the whole hip-hop world asking the same question. How did it come to this? On November 17, 2021, 36-year-old rapper Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., known to the world as Young Dolph, was shot and killed at Makeda's Homemade Cookies, a spot he visited all the time. This wasn't late at night or hidden away somewhere. This happened in the middle of the day, in the open, with no fear of who might be watching. Young Dolph wasn't just another artist. He was a hometown legend, a self-made millionaire who built his paper route empire from nothing, without relying on anyone. The shooters opened fire with more than 20 rounds. That wasn't just a killing, that was sending a message. Security cameras captured the entire moment. Two masked men pulling up in a white Mercedes, jumping out with guns and firing at Dolph while he was simply trying to buy cookies. After unloading their weapons, they ran back to the car and took off, leaving a city in shock and a community desperate for answers. Police didn't waste time. Within months, investigators had arrested 4 suspects and filed charges. Justin Straight, Drop Johnson, and Cornelius Smith were identified as the alleged shooters, the ones who carried out the attack. Then there was Hernandez Govin, the man federal investigators identified as the mastermind, who put the whole operation together, and Jamarcus Johnson, Justin's half-brother, was accused of helping the shooters escape and later collecting the money connected to the hit. The system was finally moving. Arrests were happening. But anyone who understands how the streets operate knew these 4 men probably weren't the end of the story. Somebody wanted young Dolph gone, and the real question became, who put the battery in these guys' backs? Who approved this? To understand how things reached a point where young Dolph lost his life, you have to rewind and look at one of the ugliest beefs Memphis rap has ever seen. The long-standing tension between young Dolph and another Memphis powerhouse, Yo Gotti. This wasn't a couple of subliminal bars or Twitter shots. This was deep, personal, and stretched back years. Crews, labels, street politics, shootings. The already dangerous tension eventually spiraled into a situation that left real people hurt and the city divided. This wasn't rap drama. This had real-life consequences for anyone standing too close. The story begins around 2014, when young Dolph was rising fast with his independent grind. Yo Gotti, real name Mario Mims, was already established in Memphis with his CMG label and reportedly approached Dolph with a deal. On paper, it looked like a smart business move, a veteran trying to bring a new star under his wing. But Dolph wasn't with it. He had his own vision and was building Paper Route into something powerful. He didn't want to be just another artist on someone else's label or have people controlling his moves. Dolph wanted ownership, his masters, his money, his direction. A real boss mentality, even if it rubbed certain people the wrong way. And apparently, Yo Gotti didn't take the rejection lightly. According to Dolph, the energy changed completely. He even tweeted in 2016, saying, "Bro went from being my #1 fan and wanting to sign me, to being my biggest hater." That tweet said everything about how Dolph felt that someone who once showed him love and respect had suddenly switched up. And once Dolph made it clear he wasn't going to fall in line, the energy changed. In the streets, when someone switches up over business and ego, that's when situations can turn dangerous fast. It didn't take long for the tension to spill into the music. Both artists started throwing shots, and things got personal quickly. In 2016, young Dolph dropped his project King of Memphis, a title that directly challenged a role Yo Gotti had claimed for years. But the most explosive moment came in 2017 when Dolph released *Play with Yo *Play with Yo ******. That track went straight at Yo Gotti with no filter. Dolph implied he had been involved with the mother of Gotti's child, used a lookalike of Gotti in the music video, and even designed the cover art to look like missed calls from her. In street culture, that level of disrespect isn't something people just overlook. It's the type of move that turns rap beef into real-life problems. And when both sides have people around them with real connections, real pride, and real firepower, disrespect at that level can escalate from music to something much more dangerous. The
whole world never say that when they egging on the beat. When everybody put on a song, everybody egging out, nobody don't be saying that. We feel like that.
And that's when the situation stopped feeling like a rap rivalry and started looking like a real street conflict. In Memphis, a city with deep history, strong neighborhood loyalty, In real street politics, public disrespect doesn't stay online. Words have weight. Music has consequences. And when reputations are challenged in a place where credibility means everything, tensions can rise fast. It wasn't long before the feud spilled out of music and into real-world violence. The first major incident happened in February 2017 during CIAA weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. On February 25th, young Dolph's bullet-resistant SUV was hit with a barrage of gunfire over 100 rounds. Whoever carried out that attack wanted him gone. The only reason Dolph survived was because the vehicle had been reinforced. But that incident wasn't the end. Just 7 months later, in September 2017, Dolph was shot multiple times outside the Loews Hotel in Los Angeles. This time, the situation was extremely serious. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Early reports in the media mentioned various individuals, but police later clarified who was and wasn't considered a suspect. One man with ties to Yo Gotti's circle, Corey McClandon, was arrested but ultimately not charged. Fast forward years later, and the case surrounding Dolph's tragic death had finally made its way to trial. When Justin Johnson's proceedings began in September 2024, nearly 3 years after Dolph was killed, the entire city of Memphis was watching. This wasn't just another courtroom story. This was a case with huge cultural weight. Johnson faced charges including first-degree murder and conspiracy, the kind of charges that could keep someone behind bars for life if convicted. Prosecutors presented surveillance footage that appeared to show two masked individuals stepping out of a white Mercedes and opening fire while Dolph was inside Makeda's Cookies, one of the most heartbreaking scenes in modern hip-hop history. Prosecutors didn't just rely on the surveillance footage, they brought out phone records placing Johnson and the other defendants in the area during the time of the shooting. Ballistics experts also testified that the weapons recovered in the investigation matched the shell casings found at the scene. But the biggest turning point came when one of the co-defendants, Cornelius Smith, took the stand. Smith agreed to cooperate with federal authorities, hoping for a reduced sentence, and when he opened his mouth, the courtroom shifted. His testimony wasn't just about his own actions. It went far beyond that. According to what Smith told the court, the situation surrounding young Dolph's death wasn't just street-level chaos or a dispute between a couple of low-ranking players. In his account, the orders for the hit allegedly came from higher up. Smith testified that a well-known figure in Memphis, Anthony Big Juke Mims, the older brother of artist Yo Gotti, was involved in giving the green light. Now, it's important to note, these were allegations made by a cooperating witness. They weren't proven facts, and no court has convicted Big Juke or Yo Gotti of any involvement. But the moment Smith said those names, the entire courtroom froze. His statements instantly turned a local tragedy into a much bigger story, one with massive implications for Memphis, the music industry, and everyone connected to the case.
Since our last interview, Justin Johnson, aka Straight Drop, got sentenced to life in prison for the murder of young Dolph.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think they gave him another 50.
Smith testified that Big Juke offered $100,000 to have young Dolph killed. Basically, $100,000 for someone to take out one of Memphis's biggest rap stars. According to Smith, the plan was for him and Johnson to split most of the money. They were each supposed to get $40,000 for actually committing the murder, while Hernandez Govan, the man Smith says planned everything, would get $20,000 for organizing the hit. Smith also said that he and Johnson met with Big Juke several times in the weeks leading up to the murder to go over the plan. And after they killed Dolph, they allegedly FaceTimed Big Juke to confirm the job was done. But things got even more surprising when Smith claimed that someone connected to CMG paid $50,000 for his legal fees after he was arrested in January 2022. Smith said he wasn't sure exactly who sent the money, but he was confident it came from CMG. That suggests a label, or at least someone tied to it, may have been trying to support or protect the people involved in the hit. If that's true, it would mean this wasn't just one person ordering a murder. It could point to a larger group being involved, and possibly even raise questions about obstruction of justice or helping suspects after the crime charges that could reach much higher up the chain.
Do you know Big Juke?
Yeah, Juke was my boy.
Oh, that was your friend?
Yeah, that was my boy.
Well, in the trial, in the Justin Johnson Straight Drop trial, they say that Juke had a $100K hit on Dolph.
But this is where things get complicated. Justin Johnson's lawyer, Luke Evans, pushed back hard and questioned whether Smith was telling the truth at all. Evans argued that Smith was either lying or stretching the truth to get a lighter deal from prosecutors. He even brought up a letter Smith supposedly wrote to his family from jail, where Smith admitted he would say anything to avoid spending the rest of his life locked up. If that letter is real, it makes Smith look completely unreliable and raises the question of whether anything he said can actually be trusted, or if he was just telling prosecutors whatever they wanted to hear to protect himself. Evans also pointed out major problems in Smith's story, especially when it came to the money. Smith claimed he was promised $40,000 for being involved in the murder, but later admitted he only received $800, total $500 at first, and another $300 afterward. That huge gap made the defense argue that his whole story didn't add up. Even with all those credibility issues, the jury still sided with the prosecution. On September 26, 2024, Justin Johnson was found guilty on every charge: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and being a felon in possession of a weapon. The jury made their decision after reviewing everything: the surveillance video, phone records, and yes, Smith's testimony, even with all its flaws. Johnson was sentenced to life in prison, which in Memphis means he must serve at least 51 years before he can even be considered for release. He's around 30 years old now, so if he survives his entire sentence, he wouldn't be eligible for parole until he's about 81 years old. In other words, his life on the outside is basically over.
Feel when Straight Drop got sentenced to the murder?
I don't feel no type of way. I don't put myself in that like that. I kill.
But even though Justin Johnson's conviction gave young Dolph's family and fans a sense of justice, it also opened the door to a much bigger set of questions about who else might have been involved. Because if Smith's testimony about Big Juke was convincing enough for the jury to consider it credible, people naturally started wondering, who else knew? Who else might have been part of the planning? And the question that's been floating around for years, did Yo Gotti himself know what his brother was allegedly doing? Or was he completely unaware? Right now, there is no publicly available evidence that ties Yo Gotti personally to ordering, approving, or participating in any kind of plot. All the allegations mentioned in court focus solely on Big Juke, not Gotti. But Big Juke wasn't just Yo Gotti's brother. He was heavily involved in CMG's operations and was a major figure in the Memphis music scene. Then everything got even more complicated when Big Juke was shot and killed in Memphis in January 2024. Outside a restaurant during a repass after a funeral. No one has been arrested for his killing, and the motive remains unknown. Some people online and in the streets have speculated that it might have been retaliation for young Dolph's murder, possibly involving people connected to Paper Route Empire, but there's zero proof of that. It's just talk. What makes Big Juke's death significant is timing. He never got a chance to respond to Smith's claims. He never got to deny, explain, or defend himself. And he never got to clarify whether anyone else was involved or if the allegations were completely false. His death essentially removed a key figure from ever being questioned. Another major name in the alleged plot is Hernandez Govan, who prosecutors said was the organizer who coordinated everything. Govan pleaded not guilty and was found not guilty in August 2025, clearing him of the charges. He had long-standing ties to both Yo Gotti and Big Juke. Social media posts and industry connections show he was close to the CMG circle, but just like with Yo Gotti, there is no public evidence that directly connects him to any murder plot. All allegations centered on his relationship with Big Juke, not Gotti. Prosecutors reportedly offered Govan a plea deal, which he turned down, choosing instead to fight the charges and maintain his innocence, a decision that ultimately paid off when the jury acquitted him. The fourth defendant, Jamarcus Johnson, Justin Johnson's half-brother, took a plea deal in June 2023. He admitted to accessory charges, saying he helped the shooters get away after the murder and helped with the payment. In his testimony, he mentioned text messages where Smith was asking about Big Juke, which supports parts of Smith's story about Big Juke's alleged role. But just like Smith, Jamarcus is cooperating with prosecutors to try to get a lighter sentence. So his testimony also comes with its own questions about motivation. Beyond the four men who were charged, investigators also looked into whether anyone else connected to Yo Gotti might have played a role, especially black youngsters, the CMG artist who was involved in the 2017 Charlotte shooting incident. In early 2022, not long after Johnson and Smith were arrested, reports came out that they had hired attorney Art Horn, a lawyer who had previously represented both Yo Gotti and black youngsters. That raised a lot of eyebrows and made people wonder if CMG had any involvement behind the scenes. Horn eventually dropped them as clients and publicly denied that he was hired by CMG or anyone acting for them. Still, even that short connection between the accused shooters and a lawyer with ties to Gotti's team added another layer of confusion to an already messy case. And that brings us to the biggest unanswered question in all of this, the one people still argue about even after Justin Johnson's conviction. If Big Juke really did order the hit on young Dolph, was he acting on his own? Was this something he decided to handle by himself without Yo Gotti knowing anything about it? Or was Yo Gotti aware of what was happening, involved in the planning, or even the one who approved it? Right now, there is no public evidence directly linking Yo Gotti to ordering or participating in the plot. And Big Juke's death, before he could ever be questioned about the allegations, means a key piece of the puzzle is gone forever. That leaves us with a case where some answers are on record, but the biggest ones may never be fully known. The truth about who ultimately ordered young Dolph's killing, the unanswered questions, the street politics, and the price that comes with that life. All of it still hangs in the air. One of the biggest unanswered questions in this case is the claim that someone connected to CMG allegedly paid $50,000 toward Cornelia Smith's legal fees. If this claim is true and Smith did say it under oath, it would suggest something much bigger than just Big Juke acting on his own. Think about what that would mean. If CMG, or someone tied to the label, really paid that kind of money to help defend a man accused of killing young Dolph, it could point to either deeper involvement in the plot or at the very least an organized effort to protect the people accused of carrying it out and keep them from cooperating with investigators. But the truth is, the details around this supposed payment are extremely unclear. Smith himself said he didn't know exactly who paid it. It's also worth considering other explanations. In Memphis's tight street networks, it isn't uncommon for associates, friends, or even loose connections to help cover legal fees for someone facing serious charges, especially if there's a fear the person might flip and start talking to the feds. Another troubling piece of this story is the huge difference between the alleged $100,000 bounty that Big Juke supposedly put on young Dolph's head and the tiny amount of money Smith says he actually received. He claimed he was promised $40,000 but only got $800 total. That's not a small gap, it's less than 1% of what he says was agreed on. And it raises serious questions about who was really calling the shots, what promises were actually made, and whether Smith was being used or misled from the very beginning.
Straight drop only got $800 for that hit. Can you imagine killing somebody and your reward is a PlayStation and maybe a game or two?
You don't know if that's...
If you're a street guy promised $40,000 to commit a murder, and after doing it, you only get $800, you'd normally be furious. You'd either retaliate, refuse to stay quiet, or completely turn on the people who tricked you. But in this case, Smith cooperated with authorities and testified against Johnson, even while claiming he got cheated on the payment. That creates a big question. Why would the people who supposedly ordered the hit people who allegedly had access to $100,000 and later supposedly covered $50,000 in legal fees pay the shooters almost nothing? One possible answer is that the $100,000 bounty was exaggerated or never real in the first place. Another possibility is that the full payment actually was planned, but never happened because Big Juke died 2 years after the murder, or because paying the full amount might leave a traceable money trail leading back to whoever funded it. Whatever the truth is, the fact that Smith only received $800 for such a major, high-profile killing makes the whole idea of a well-organized, heavily funded operation look shaky. If this was truly a CMG-backed hit, with $100,000 set aside for the job and another $50,000 available for legal protection, you'd expect a much more professional setup and for the shooters to actually get paid what they were promised. The messy, low-budget way it actually played out suggests something more amateur and unorganized, and that raises real doubts about whether Big Juke and CMG were as deeply or officially involved as Smith's testimony makes it sound.